Hello, my name is Richard Johnson. I'd just like to talk to you about this idea of an Indian Anglo interest group. And I'd like to put out an invitation to you to join us. So let me give you a bit of a background of where I'm coming to this interest group from. So I came to Australia in 1969. Had a full head of hair, 23 years of age, starting my first job in secondary teaching at Flemington High School. And it was interesting. There were no, I felt as if I was the only Indian in Australia. You'd go to a 7-Eleven and there were no Indians around then. No, I don't think there were 7-Elevens around then. Anyhow, and when I had a look at Australian history books, there was no mention of India. That didn't surprise me. But then I read Jeff Blaney's Tyranny of Distance. And in the first couple of pages, he talks about people, the early settlers, the early Western settlers, waiting at a hilltop for these ships to arrive, bringing supplies from India. And he talked about Australia being a satellite of India. I thought, fascinating. Anyhow, that worked into a master's thesis that I wrote on the link between Australia and India, 1788 to 1850. Now, the reason why I'm telling you this is because there was a reading of Australian history in Australian history books with no mention of India. And still, there was very good evidence, and I'd love to talk to you about this at some stage, about the links between Australia and India. I mean, the Rum Rebellion, where did the rum come from? From India. The camel drivers, for example. I mean, I can go on and on with examples. Some of the early European settlers. So for example, one of the surgeons, the first in New South Wales, I mean, what he liked doing was on a Sunday afternoon, he'd have his curry and rice. He's European, but he lived in India for many, many years, had his curry and rice, and then he'd go and shoot deer. Well, he found, this is a strange place, there's no deer. Well, he sent for some deer in the next ship to come. And of course, as you know, you'd look at the population of deer in Australia, especially in New South Wales. They're all Indian deer. That's where they came from. Look, there's stories everywhere, but those stories are edited out. Now, I'm not saying there's a conspiracy theory. It's just a matter of priorities. When people are writing histories are stories. So linking this to my own story, my family story, which I'm now I've been interested in it for a while, but now I have some time where I want to do some writing of my family history. And I think back to my grandmother's story that she told me, all about her forefathers. And the name Glendale was very important. That was her name. Irish. Her grandfather was a stevedore, she told me. And she'd call England home. She'd never been to England. Colour of skin, me, which is very Indian looking. But still, so British. So proper. Priorities, language, food. And not really at home in India. But I'm not criticizing. I love my grandmother dearly. But that was her time. Those were her priorities. And that was her story. When I look at I've had my ancestry.com, my genetic map drawn. And I look at my genetic map. Let me tell you, I've got North India, 42% of my genes from North India, 37% from South India, 79% of my genes from India. Europe, England, 12%. Scottish, my nana, Scottish genes, 1%. And still, all my early memories of family history come from the 1% of my Scottish genes. So look, I'm very interested in finding out where the Indian link came from. I've just read William Dalrymple's book on the history of the East India Company. It is so clear where it came from. The links between England and India were very, very strong. And there's no question about that. But there's no story. I don't know any stories about where the Indian link and my family link came in, was named. I don't know the names of people. I don't know the equivalent of the Glendays from India, from whence I got my 79% genetic background. So I'm curious. I'm certainly not critical of my grandparents, my parents, who also had that very strong leaning towards Anglo side of the family. But I just want to fill in the gaps. I want to find out that missing link of that link with India. And I thought if we, get some like minds together, so people who are interested in pursuing this line and giving voice to stories that make that link between India and Anglo, make that link between those stories. That would be fantastic. And I talked to my good friend Nigel, and Nigel comes from a very strong media background, in photography and video and so on. And what we would like to do really is have a diverse group of people sharing their stories. No one's excluded, and no types of stories are excluded. We want to have a podcast. We would really love to have a rich website that represents stories in various forms, art forms, paintings, podcasts, interviews, audio interviews, written papers, written stories, written paragraphs. So this is open. The important thing is to bring in those stories that make the link and highlight the link between the Indian and the Anglo. We would like to be welcoming of all. We are really not being critical of anyone here. We just want to pursue stories. So if you're interested, please join us. We will have the email and telephone links, and we would ask you to join us. We must first start, and I've already started doing some of this. I'd love to share this with you. What is there? What are the stories that are there? And I found some terrific video and some great stories that are already out there. Not of my family, but stuff that's been published. And we share those stories. And then the thing is to tune into whatever you'd like to tune into, the types of resources that you would like to develop, contribute to, use. Have a look. So we'd like to have some rich resources that we can publish, that we can think about, reflect on, and even put our own family stories there. As Nigel reminds me too, we need to be very careful about copyright and really have a secure site. So this is not a Facebook page where everyone shares, because that's so open to everyone else putting their straw in and sucking out information. We don't want that. We would like us in the group to share that information and for us to be discreet about it. Because this is a personal thing. There are personal stories there too. So we need to be sensitive about that. But not only just be sensitive about it, but really cover our backs in this litigious, media world where people can misuse information. So please join us. I'd love to hear from you. We would love to hear from you. We would like to have regular online meetings. We really would like to reach out to people in people anywhere, really. You can always come in, people in India for sure. I would love to look at I've got some links with people who read and write Bengali and Hindi, and get some translated works too that we can bring in, because there are stories on either side in various languages too. So bring in those stories, share those stories, and we would welcome people from everywhere in Australia and the rest of the world too to be a part of our group. Let's explore this and develop this together, please. Like minds in a positive direction. Thank you very much, and I look forward to meeting you, sharing with you, and talking to you further. Thank you.